Hi there, it's Jason. Welcome back to the channel. Today it's gonna be another Let's Paint video, and we're gonna be painting a flying bird on this medium-sized canvas. Alright, so what I've done is I've drawn a grid on the canvas with pencil, and I'm planning to do a small pencil drawing before I start the painting. This is the image that we're gonna be painting today. I think I may have went overboard with the amount of boxes. But at least that means that my drawing is going to be a lot more accurate. And getting the proportions and the angles correct is going to be kind of tough. So I'm planning to sketch it as accurately as possible so that I take all the guesswork out during the painting phase. I think the most challenging part about this painting is going to be the feathers, especially on this like open wing. Alright, let's draw this thing. So I set my iPad up right next to the canvas so that it's going to be easier to make comparisons. I'm going to be using an HB pencil, which is the lightest pencil that I have for this sketch. Drawing done. When I was drawing the wing, I was getting a bit worried that I'm putting in a little too much detail. So I went back and erased some of the lines so that the shapes are a bit more simple now. Alright, it's painting time. I don't like working on a white background, so the first thing I did was tone the canvas. There are many ways that you could do this, but what I did was to use my brush and just put a very thin layer of paint on the canvas surface. The background is going to be a purple gradient, and it's going to be lighter at the top right and darker at the bottom left. I'm going to start mixing these colors ahead of time. In the end, I had 4 different piles of purple, and I'm ready to paint the background. So this part is super straightforward. I'm just using the colors that I mixed earlier and blocking in the background using my biggest brush. I also use the same colors to paint the borders of the canvas. I'm not too worried about painting into the bird outline. That's because when I'm painting the bird itself, I'll probably be overlapping some of the background anyways. To smooth out the transitions, I'm using the same brush but with no paint on it, and I lightly just brush it over the surface of the canvas. The softer the brush you use, the smoother your blending is gonna be. So that took a while, but we were finally finished with the background. I noticed that the blue in my background and the background in the reference photo is not exactly the same. Mine looks more purple and the reference photo looks a bit more greenish or teal. But it's not a big deal, I can live with that. Now I'm going to take a small break and let the painting dry a bit, and then we can go ahead and start working on the bird itself. So with the bird, my strategy is to work back to front. And that means starting with the wing that's furthest away from the viewer. And since the wing is essentially a plane that's facing upwards, it's going to be catching a lot of light. So I'm painting with a very bright color here, but it's still not going to be the brightest whites of my painting. I'm going to be saving that for the focal point of the painting. After the right wing, I start to block in the head of the bird. Although the head of the bird is white, I'm using a very dark shadow color here. I'll be painting over most of this dark area here, but I'm gonna be letting some of it peek through. Earlier, I said that I wanted to save my brightest highlights, and this is what it's for. The top of the head and the edge of the left wing. I like that the slope of the wing acts like a leading line that points the viewer towards the head of the bird. And now I'm just refining some of the head shapes. I'm not going too detailed here, but I just want to block in the bigger shapes. After I'm done blocking in the head, I start to work on the neck. And the process for painting the neck is pretty similar to painting the head because they're like the same shape. Painting anything that's white is always going to be challenging because there's so many different color shifts. So as I'm painting the rest of the body, I also make sure to pay a lot of attention to how the color shifts in the white feathers. For the bird legs, I'm using a very dark color. It's a combination of blue and red, but I try to keep the mixture a bit more warm. I've always been nervous about painting bird legs and feet, but as I paint more and more birds, I'm slowly starting to gain more confidence. Hey everyone, it's day 2 of working on this painting. Yesterday we blocked in the background and about half of the bird. And today the plan is to work on this wing over here. I'm a bit nervous because this is gonna be the part that makes or breaks this painting. So hopefully it goes well. So yeah, let's jump right in. So like I said, I was really nervous about painting this wing. In the reference photo, there's a ton of detail and I'm not really sure how I'm gonna be approaching this. I think I prepared as well as I could by drawing out all of these individual feathers. But you will see later in the video that I ended up not using all of this information anyways. So what I'm doing now is trying my best to block in the average color for each section of the wing. It gets really overwhelming, but I just try my best to assume some kind of average color. Another thing I did to make this easier for me is to recognize certain patterns in the wing and just try to repeat those patterns over and over. This step really took a bit longer than I expected, but once I'm done, I go in with a bigger brush and just try to smooth out some of these harsh edges. I'm also trying to recognize if there's any sections in the wing where it's supposed to be darker, and I'm just applying some shadow using like a warm color. So at this point, I don't really have any kind of painting process. All I'm doing is looking back and forth from the reference to my painting, and if I see anything, any shape that needs to be modified, any color that needs to be added, then I'll just do that. So I'm just moving pretty rapidly throughout the whole wing. After working on the wing for a while, I realized that there's just too much contrast in this area, and it's pulling the attention away from the head of the bird, which is supposed to be the main focal point of the painting. So what I did is I used this big brush and just obliterated all of the contrast. Day 3. Today the goal is to paint the feet and then the eye, and I'll see how that goes. If that goes well, then I'll refine the wing a little bit more. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with how the painting is going so far. So let's get back into it. And now we're back painting bird feet again. I'm using a small brush and I'm focusing very hard. I'm trying to be very deliberate with my brush strokes. In the past, when I paint bird feet, I would just be very careless and I would not put so much effort into it. But now I'm trying to, just get better at painting the entire bird, so I'm taking my time to do this properly. I'd say that keeping your hands steady is actually the most difficult part about painting the bird feet. After the feet is done, I begin to render the belly of the egret a bit more. I'm adding some more form, more shapes and shadows. I'm not trying to add too much detail here. I'm still trying to maintain the overall visual hierarchy of the painting, so I'm just trying to keep my brushstrokes pretty loose. And now we're back to painting the head. I'm trying my best to keep my hand as steady as possible while I draw this eye. I'm using the smallest brush I have and I'm just taking my time to try to add little bits of paint in the right places. After a lot of focus and effort, I finally get the eye looking how I want it to be. It's not perfect, but it's definitely good enough. And that's the entire painting process. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you're still here, thank you so much, it means a lot to me. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment down below, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye!